Government officials of various ranks keep teasing, alien revelations. As in, there seems to be a lot of intimations coming from the government that suggests that they're slowly rolling out the idea of telling the public that aliens are real and that we have had some form of contact with them. And invariably, every time I see such things, someone suggests that it's all just a big distraction,
Look, man, don't fall for this distraction. Sure, there's an alien mothership in orbit, and raiding parties of reptilian commandos abducted my mom, and I currently have one of their chips implanted in my cerebral cortex. But I ain't letting it distract me, man.
Well, I'll tell you this. If the government's watching, I want them to let them know. If evidence is provided to me that we've made contact with an alien race, I'm gonna be pretty distracted. I'm just saying, especially you get some of their ships in the sky. You get some landing parties, aliens, I'm gonna be pretty distracted from basically anything else that's going on. So if that's the plan, government, I want you to know in advance, it's gonna work on me. Did you see what Trump fucking did now? No, actually. I've been distracted by these 8-foot-tall tentacled gentlemen who seem to be stealing all of our peaches for some reason. I've actually forgotten that Trump exists, to be frank with you. A lot of Christians think these aliens are just demons.
God didn't make no aliens. Ain't no aliens in the damn Bible. You know what is in the Bible? Demons.
Well, here's the thing, man. I'm fine with demons, too. That would be equally diverting. You start producing some aliens, you start producing some demons, and I'm pretty much not gonna give a rat's ass about anything that's currently, in the news cycle. I mean, I barely do now. Matt Gaetz. Remember him? Little sex pest, looks like Beavis and Butthead had a baby. Well, he's saying that back when he was a congressman, he was briefed on secret alien human hybrid, breeding programs. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg is making a lot more sense, I have to say, though, I'm not really impressed with any alien race that wants to breed with us. How desperate are these fucking aliens? Maybe they're just intergalactic zoophiles. They like to go around other planets and sex up primitive life forms.
Damn, Greebleneck! You been to Earth, bro? They got these hairless bipeds down there, dude. So hot, dude. And they love Zarlaxian dick, dude. We should go. We're already in the quadrant.
By the way, that is true. If any Zarlaxians are watching this video, I am down from some Zarlaxian dick. I'm down for the abduction, baby. I'm actually not a huge fan of this planet, believe it or not. And I am willing to do what it takes to get off this fucking rock. I don't know what you're into, but if it means escaping Earth, I'm willing to try it out, I don't know what y'all's homeworld is like, but can't be much worse, right? I mean, doing dishes, mowing the lawn, paying fucking taxes. I remember when I was a kid, they tried to push that environmentalist propaganda on me. And one of their lines was this is the only planet we've got. And I was just don't fucking remind me. And sometimes, when I talk like this, some jerk-off decides that he, and I say he because it's almost always a fucking guy, he decides that he's gonna serve me up a big old plate of perspective, He's gonna tell me how good I got it, He's gonna tell me that other people have got it way worse than I do. Well, how the fuck is that supposed to cheer me up, you slack-jawed fucking caveman? Yeah, your life might be a meaningless slog through a stifling nightmare of stupid, time-wasting, unfulfilling nonsense, but actually, it gets even worse. Be thankful. Some people are starving to death. You're not really selling me on the idea that this planet isn't a shithole, buddy. It's a shithole. I was doom scrolling last night. I get in this weird mood sometimes every night where all I want to do is scroll through Instagram reels. I don't know why. I like them better than TikToks. I like them better than YouTube shorts. I just feel like the Instagram algorithm knows me better, you know? And it'll take me on some weird journeys, man. Last night, the theme of my doom scroll somehow became DMT. A lot of people who take DMT believe that the realms they visit in their DMT trips are not hallucinations, but they're actually experiencing a different reality. And there's actually a little bit of evidence that they might be correct. But here's what bothers me about it. A lot of them talk about things like non-local identity. You ever heard that? It's basically the idea that the self is not anchored to your body, but it's a projection that's emanating from some greater source, some other realm, some higher consciousness. It's not all that dissimilar to the idea that famously was popularized by Carl Sagan, that human beings are the universe's way of understanding itself. You see? Here's my problem with that. If we're all projections of some greater consciousness, whether that be the universe or God or the great infinite Zoop or whatever, then whatever that thing is must be a goddamn idiot. The jerk off, who cuts you off in traffic, the rapist doing time in prison, the three-tooth redneck with a meth lab in his grain silo, Andrew Tate, are all luminous beings whose consciousnesses are being projected, by some ethereal realm. What a bleak fucking thought. What a shitty ethereal realm, All these hippies are always like, we are all one consciousness, man. Yeah, it sounds nice for about 2 seconds. Till you actually think about the deeper implications of that shit. That means that you and I are one consciousness with Kanye West and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Jada Pinkett Smith and James Corden and Jake Paul and Logan Paul and Mitch McConnell and Hillary Clinton and so on and so forth. I don't know about you, but I fucking hate that idea. Who the hell wants to be one with those dipshits? And if you think I'm a dipshit, well, hey, they think that you're one with me. Maybe Earth is just the fucking trash planet where all the losers who fuck up in the astral plane are sent, Like you stole the Crystal Forest King's decanter of strawberry wine, and now you're sentenced to exist as a biological organism reincarnating over and over again in the fucking meat realm, right? Till you figure out some way to escape. Good luck achieving gnosis in your meat prison, you fucking imbecile. Or maybe the astral plane just sucks as bad as Earth. There's a bunch of idiot-ass machine elves running around wearing Make the Astral Plane Great Again hats, arguing about the hyper serpents and whether they're poisoning the sacred nectar supply with woke pollen or some shit. Maybe there's like an astral equivalent to Joe Rogan interviewing some 6-dimensional fucking mantis about the medicinal benefits of smoking the souls of orphans. I don't know. Maybe the great beyond is just a fucking shithole too, full of grifters and morons and cult leaders and narcissists and freaks. Just like this realm. For some reason, when I started talking about that, I started pinching my nipple. I'm getting hot from this. What the fuck? Yeah, man, it's just like a fucking asshole plane is what it is. Same shit as this, just with more geometry and fractals and bullshit. Angels that are biblically accurate. Walls with eyes. You know, all that trippy Tool album cover horse shit. I think as human beings, we're desperate to figure out some way to glossy up this shithole existence. You know, that's why aliens, or the DMT realm, heaven, hell, gods, demons, ghosts, angels, elves, fairies, dragons, goblins, whatever the fuck. You know, and whether this shit is all real or all make-believe or some mix of the two, one thing is fucking clear. We are not satisfied with the raw deal that we have got on this little ball of shit we call home. You know, we don't look at the world as it presents itself and say, yes, splendid. 70 years, give or take a few decades, of errands and heartbreak and fucking back pain and bureaucrats and humiliations and watching morons fail upward into wealth and power. Perfect. Great. Wonderful. 10 out of 10. No fucking notes. You know, we look around the planet, the world, our world, and we think to ourselves, man, there has gotta be more than this, right? Something bigger. Something grander. Something that puts all this shit into some manner of perspective, maybe? Some kind of grander purpose for me and you and all of us? It's probably just cope, right? I mean, science tells us that we're nothing more than a species of ape that got smart enough to become miserable and fucking self-hating. And this is all there is. We're just slabs of temporarily animate meat that has to do chores and pay bills and all that other shit until finally we're fucking dead. The universe says, congratulations, you're self-aware. You are a chunk of biology, briefly arising in a cold, indifferent universe for no reason. And your reward is stress and errands and medical bills and the horrifying knowledge of your own mortality. Enjoy your little window of consciousness before it slams shut forever, you stupid fucking monkey. There was a guy. He was a philosopher. His name was Philip Mainlander, German guy. He wrote a book called The Philosophy of Redemption. In this book, he basically stated that existence is nothing more than a mistake. Being is the disease, and non-being is the cure. He wrote that the universe was nothing more than the decomposing corpse of God. He said that God had realized the error of existence and decided to kill himself. And all of this is essentially just the aftermath of God's act of self-annihilation. And that you and I and everyone and everything, we're all fragments of a dying God, hurtling slowly towards oblivion. Probably wouldn't shock you to learn that Mainlander hanged himself shortly after the publication of this book. And in case you were wondering what his personality was like, I find it mildly interesting that he was, by all accounts, a warm and gentle guy. But I'm not. Maybe that's why, even if I can relate to his pessimism, I stubbornly refuse to not exist. When this universe wants me dead, it's gonna have to pry me from this life with my nails dug in. Because even though I despise this world in many respects, I just can't let it go. You know, I may be nothing more than a semi-conscious meat machine, but I guess to me, that beats the alternative of just being nothing. What the fuck fun is that? You don't even get to complain or eat or jerk off or nothing. You just have to float around without a thought, without any substance. Seems lame. I remember one time I was in the dream realm and I met the ancient Mesopotamian goddess Namu. And she teased me with some pages of this ancient grimoire that contained some of the secrets of existence, but she wouldn't let me see enough of the damn thing to actually learn anything. She just showed me enough to tantalize me, you know? I'm not really sure why she did that. She implied that if I wanted to see the whole thing, I had to bring about the flood. But I don't even know what the fuck she was talking about, and she never clarified, so I don't know exactly what she expected out of my ass. In Mesopotamian mythology, humans were created as simple laborers. The gods didn't feel like working, so they created us from the clay as basically a slave race. Things like that make me feel at times like, even if there are gods and goddesses and whatnot, we're probably better off without them. Yahweh is another great example. The Christian God. Here's a guy that rules the cosmos, but what does he want? He wants a race of hairless apes kneeling in fear and telling him how awesome he is 24/7. Like, what an insecure little bitch. Imagine creating the universe and still needing praise from some fragile fucking meat sacks who take shits and pick boogers and belch and fart and stink. Like, what a loser. And if you don't love him for it, he's going to torment you forever. Of course, if you go with the Gnostic interpretation, he's not even called Yahweh, he's called Yaldabaoth, or Saklas, or Samael. The basic idea, though, is, he's the demiurge. He's not even the true God. He's just some malformed, arrogant dipshit of a lesser deity who mistook his little corner of reality for the whole damn thing and started barking commandments at everything. All the livestock, like us. Which you have to admit, even if it's just as logically dubious as the stuff you hear from the Christians, it does feel more emotionally correct based on these results. We're just the bastard offspring of a loser god that none of the other gods even like. And he uses us as his own little personal hug box to balm the wound of his chapped ass. Even as he can't help but torture us because he just can't help but derive pleasure from our fucking suffering. He wants us to suffer, but he wants us to love him. The idea certainly matches with the results that we see around us. To paraphrase George Carlin, results like these do not belong on the resume of a supreme being. This is more like the kind of shit you get from an office temp with a bad attitude. Now, I've told you guys before, but one time on mushrooms, I was meditating. And in my meditations, I was whisked through space and time and so on and so forth, and I encountered the giant spire of love. Just a big-ass pillar out there in outer space. And it was whirling around like a fucking tornado, and I was trying to act tough. And I said, "Fuck you, cosmic love spire. I don't need your fucking love, you little bitch." And what it did was it just embraced me. And there was such warmth in that embrace. It was the best I've ever felt in my entire life. It was just like, no, my child, you don't understand. This is what it's like here. It was fucking amazing. It was so wholesome and pure and ego-destroying, and I felt like one with existence for just the tiniest little span of time, just seconds. But I don't know how to reconcile that with what I see here on Earth. I don't know how to square that feeling with this world full of stupidity and greed and malice and hatred and judgment and loneliness and predation and disease and starvation and famine and exploitation and genocide and war and Trump. The two things just don't seem to fit together all that cleanly. You know? Like, one thing says to me that the heart of existence is love. The other thing says that the heart of existence is a fucking meat grinder. And we're the fucking meat. I don't know which one is the lie. But I don't see how they can both be true. I mean, I believe in the power of paradox, but this one is just too fucking much. When I was younger, my struggle was one of belief versus disbelief. And I was a disbeliever. I saw that all of existence was nothing more than a bunch of energy and matter configuring themselves into different forms until one of the forms was able to say, hey, wait a minute, what the fuck is all this? I thought disbelief was liberation. I thought once you stripped away all the fucking fairy tales and the gods and the wishful thinking, you'd arrive at the truth. A cold truth. A hard truth. But the truth. Or as near as we human beings can get to it. But what I found was that pure reason, pure rationality, pure careful skepticism was just as much horse shit as the religion I tried to escape. Because for all of its systems and standards, it still rests on a number of unfounded assumptions. It assumes, for example, that reality is fundamentally comprehensible to a creature like us. It assumes that whatever is real must ultimately submit itself to our tools, our methods, our language, our pitiful little measuring sticks. And to some extent it does. Some of it, at least. I mean, to build bridges and split atoms and invent porn, you know, we had to have some understanding. Fair enough. But there's a gigantic difference between being able to manipulate aspects of the world and actually understanding what the fuck the world is. Like, a man locked in a single room for his entire life might become an expert on that room in many respects. But ultimately, he doesn't know how it was constructed. He doesn't know why he's in it. He doesn't know what's outside of it. He doesn't know anything other than what he can infer from the walls and the floor and the ceiling and whatever scraps of evidence happen to be scattered about. He may be a brilliant room scientist. He may develop elegant theories of wall textures and air flows and so on and so forth. He may produce equations describing the acoustics of his own fucking footsteps. But all that knowledge still exists within a prison of context that he cannot escape. It does not free him from the fundamental ignorance of his condition. And that's us, baby. Clever inmates studying our fucking cell and then confusing the understanding of the cell with an understanding of everything. But the mystic ain't no better. Not really. Because what he doesn't know, he simply makes up. He says, I had a dream of what lies beyond the room. I had a vision that told me that there is a garden outside, and a throne, and beings of pure light, and a destiny for my soul. Okay, maybe. Or maybe you just ate a mushroom, and your monkey brain threw a fucking screensaver at you, you know? The rationalist mistakes his instrumentation for omniscience, and the mystic mistakes his intuition for revelation. One worships the fucking map, the other worships the fucking mirage, and both are standing in the same locked room. And they've just found different little coping mechanisms to deal with it. And I can tell you, I've been an atheist, skeptic, rationalist, and I've given in to the woo-woo, new age, mythical, mystical bullshit. And neither one, in my opinion, got me any closer to what I'm actually looking for. They're both just two flavors of cope. And at this point, I simply oscillate between the two of them as the needs of the moment demand. Because what the fuck else can I do? What the fuck else can any of us do? As Billy Corgan once sang, "Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage." Sometimes I envy the stupid. Maybe you think I'm stupid. You're probably right. But what I mean is, I envy those who have no yearning for anything deeper than what this world gives them. They're happy to just lift weights, or watch football, or the latest Marvel movie, or make some pottery, or whatever fucking flavor of empty IQ shit they like to do. And that's no insult to any of those activities. I enjoy a few of them myself, but I'm not satisfied with them. Not in a grand way. I'm not sustained by them. I want to know the fucking truth. I want to somehow wrap my little primate brain around the totality of existence and know the answer to the most important question. The scientist wants to know how. The mystic wants to know why. And that's why ultimately, even though I think it's probably all just a bunch of made-up cope garbage, I have to be the mystic. Because how doesn't matter to me. I want to know why. If I'm locked alone in a room, which I am, I don't care what the walls are made of. I don't care when it was built. I want to know why the fuck I'm trapped in it. And if the answer is there is no why, then so be it. I guess I'm wasting my time. But if there is a why, I want to know it. Even if it sucks balls. Even if it's the worst possible thing I could imagine, I'd rather know than not know. But here's the real bitch of it all. Let's say that somehow I figured it out. Somehow my tiny, shitty brain that can't even do math without a calculator or counting on my fingers, this fucking piece of shit brain of mine manages the incredible feat of sussing out the true nature of existence. Well, what then? Oh, I see. We exist to create cheese because the universe wanted cheese. All right. Now what? Do I feel better? Do I suddenly become content? Do the bills stop coming? Does grief stop hurting? Does my back stop aching? Does the knowledge itself redeem the condition? Or does it just allow me to now put a label on the cage and say, ah, yes, the cheese-making room. That is why we're here. That's another possibility, right? No one likes to talk about that. The truth, even if it's attainable, may not be comforting or useful or liberating. Maybe it just simply clarifies the fucking horror. It may tell you exactly why you're in the trap and leave you in the trap anyway. Congratulations! You have discovered the purpose of existence. Now please continue folding laundry. What a fucking kick in the teeth that would be, huh? You finally figure out the answer to the great cosmic riddle and you still have to fucking do all the dumb shit you do now. Doesn't change a goddamn thing. It just feels like this existence does nothing but pile indignity on top of indignity. Like the joke is not merely that we suffer, but that we are made conscious enough to understand that we suffer and curious enough to demand an explanation and too damn stupid to understand the explanation even if there is one. What will we do with it? I don't know. I still want it though. I've grown so hostile to tidy philosophies. You know? Just feels like they're a bunch of emotional narcotics for people who can't stand the abrasion of all this uncertainty all around us, you know? Religion says, don't worry, it's all part of the plan. And materialism says, don't worry, there is no plan. And mysticism says, don't worry, it's all love. And nihilism says, don't worry, none of it matters. It's just like everybody has a little anesthetic. Everybody has a fucking bedtime story. But it's all just a bunch of cope horse shit. I don't find myself capable at this point of believing in any of it. You want to know my best hypothesis as of now? It's the inversion of the Sagan quote from earlier. I think we are the universe trying its best to be stupid. I think the universe does not need us to know itself. I think it already knows itself. And it's bored with itself. So it created us to be ignorant and stupid and stand back in awe of it, giving us enough intelligence to ask why, but not enough intelligence to discover why or comprehend why. But I recognize that I'm probably just transposing my own nature onto the cosmos, right? I'm bored, therefore the universe must be bored. Very narcissistic of me. But that is my nature. And, I can only ultimately see things through the lens of my own ego, no matter how desperately I may attempt to do otherwise. And I suppose that's ultimately the point I'm driving at here, if I'm driving at one at all. In our search for truth, well, I say our search for truth, but really a lot of us are not bothering to search for truth. They're just, just jerking off somewhere. That's good. I do that too. At least those of us who kind of give a shit some of the time enough to search for truth, we're ultimately kind of not just locked in this room of this place in space and time, but we're even more desperately locked in the room of our own perspective, right? Which are colored by all kinds of stuff, like our temperament, our traumas, our appetites, our fears, and our vanity, and our culture, and our biology, and our memories, and our private, humiliations, and our little fixations, and a bunch of fucking other bullshit, right? A bunch of myriad warped glasses, which are broken and stupid little fucking silly brains. They can't fucking parse all that shit out. They're not up to that task. Oh well. Fuck it. Maybe the aliens know the answer, huh? Maybe the aliens know why. Or the demons. Maybe they know why. Or the DMT entities? Shit, you know, someone's got to have the fucking answer, right? Someone's got to have a bead on this info. Eh? Right? Right?
Ooh.